Hey y'all, welcome back to the Venus Report. So my name is Kate. I'm an embodiment coach and facilitator and artist.
And my name is Liz. I am a content producer and strategist, as well as a studying herbalist focused on seasonality.
And we are two sisters who have been studying and involved in the studies of spirituality and esoteric subjects for basically our whole lives. And we are here to give you conversational topics around those things. So spirituality, esoteric subjects, and how to live an aligned and embodied life of your choosing. For those who have been listening for a while, just want to give a little shout out that we have shifted the trajectory of this show. So in order to serve us both in a really big way, we have decided to shift away from just astrology content and more towards embodiment and alignment topics and how we live that, what we're currently moving through. Every episode will be different, and we will weave in astrology to that. So astrology is not leaving. It's just no longer going to be the focus and the focal point of the show. So for those who just followed for astrology, sorry, but we are living in more alignment with how we are feeling in our lives.
And for those who are really into our astrology content, I still think that you will all still gain something from these episodes if you happen to want to follow along with us. Yeah, like Kate said, it's going to be all about spirituality and subjects along those lines. Without further ado, today we are starting off with all about Kate. We are going to be interviewing her, or I'm going to be interviewing her, and we're going to get to know kind of her background a little bit more, what she specializes in with her somatic therapy and yoga and everything that she has been studying. I will start with the first question for you, Kate.
Sure.
So, tell us about your path and everything significant in between that has directly led you to where you are today.
What a good question. That's a big question. Everything that's led me to this moment is a lot of things. Okay, so out of college, I studied outdoor education and recreation management. Did rock climbing classes, led trips, like backpacking trips, kayaking trips, and that all led me to the study of pedagogy or teaching and how to effectively teach others for lasting change to occur. And that was a big theme throughout what I studied in college, was how to make big changes sustainable, right? And how do we work through our own personal blocks and our own personal stories that aren't really pointing us in the biggest and best direction for our life. And how can we learn through experience rather than just sitting in a classroom? Because I've had a lot of trouble sitting in a classroom in high school, middle school, all of that. So in college, I chose experiential education to study. So that led me to do a lot of trips and adventures and leading kids, leading adults on traveling trips, experiential ed trips. Then after college, I was like, I am not making as much money as I want to, and I'm not supporting myself in the way that I need. So that led me to go to Thailand and teach English for a year. So I traveled to Thailand, Nepal, Cambodia, and all around the Southeast Asia, essentially, and learned how to teach English in a classroom. So I learned Thai, and that was a beautiful, beautiful experience. Fast forward, coming back home, I took a lot of the Eastern studies that I dove into out there, like Buddhism, for example. And when I was in Nepal, I got introduced and basically initiated. It was like an inner initiation to yoga and the tradition of yoga and Hinduism and the deities that they they chant to, and I got kind of introduced to that in a really, really beautiful way, where I went to the opening of a Lakshmi temple in the middle of the Himalayan mountains in a village with our guide. And it was kind of like a happenstance experience. And ever since then, I knew that something was there. There was like this magic and this call from the deepest parts of me that was like, this is a path to explore more of. So coming home to the States, I ran out of money and came back home and decided to do a yoga teacher training. I was going to do one in Bali, but I didn't have enough money. So I came home and studied at the Yoga Life Institute in Exeter, New Hampshire. And they've also got a studio in Mumbai, India. So it was a classical yoga training. And then I moved on to do my 300-hour yoga teacher training, which was a lineage of where Shiva Ray is involved in that same lineage, just for context, for those who know the yoga world. And that led me to teach yoga in studios all around the seacoast and study trauma-informed yoga. So I had a lot of students that were struggling with brain injuries and emotional trauma, emotional upset, dysregulation, things that were deeply psychological and physical that yoga didn't necessarily address directly. But I knew that there was something there for them in the class when I would be teaching a breathwork practice, that they could feel something begin to shift in their own body-mind experience. So that led me to study trauma-informed yoga. And that opened up my world into a whole new way of teaching and of professionality, because I'm not a licensed social worker or therapist. However, now, more recently in my journey, I am studying somatic movement therapy. And it was really the yoga and all of the things I mentioned before that had like primed me to study something that is completely bottom up, body based. And what I mean by bottom up is body first. So allowing the body to process information, process trauma, process movement, and allow it to move through in its own natural cycles and systems. Like your nervous system has specific ways of releasing energy, and we can get in the way of that. So top-down approaches of therapy are talk therapy, for example, right? You're like cognizing everything and like talking about it and intellectualizing, and that can help. But I know that more and more people are saying that, oh, talk therapy is not helping me. Talk therapy is not letting me get anywhere with changes in my life. Hence somatic therapy, hence bottom up processing to allow things to be released and space to be created in your system for new change and sustainable behavioral changes. So,
wow,
that's how I was primed. I was just always involved in body movement and how experience can really shift your way of behaving, right? If you're desiring to like be, a leader, right? Reading about being a leader is only going to get you so far, rather than just putting yourself out there in a leadership role and learning through experience is way more effective. Yes. I'm sure a lot of people can agree. So that's the story. I think that answered the questions, but I'll stop there.
Yeah. And I guess just like short and sweet, right now, where are you at? So you are a somatic therapist now.
So I'm a somatic movement therapist and a coach, embodiment coach, and a vocalist. So I'm in a band, and I use the voice to empower myself and to empower others as well. So my band is called the Maha Kirtan Band, and we sing devotional mantras to Hindu deities, mostly Hindu. So it's a way to connect to the divine. It's a way to connect to the other side, the energy, the source, universal prana, like whatever you want to call it. It's a
Yeah.
medium to connect. And Liz has seen the shows, so she can probably
And
speak to
I
her
was just
experience.
going to say that, yeah, it is nothing like I've ever experienced before seeing Kate's band in person. It's like a meditative experience, which I want people to know. Like it's one of those things that's more like sound healing, and but you also are involved in chanting, and you're like with the band in moments and dancing and moving your body. So I think that's really cool. I wanted to say a couple things. Um, your the words you're using, like the teaching with like your teachings, I had no idea like how you were kind of in these certain practices, and these are teaching, I guess, strategies that have been around for a long time. So that's just really cool that you engaged in things that were very specific to, you've always engaged in things that were very specific to what that thing is that you're talking about, the movement and the yoga. um And the last thing I'll say, like, just bringing it back to astrology, just cannot help but saying this. What I just realized is that you have a Sagittarius moon, if you can't already tell. Um, just Sagittarius energy written in here. And I also want to make that connection to your Mars in Cancer, because the moon, we're talking about the moon. So we look at where the moon is. Wait, you have Mars in Cancer, yeah. So we look to the house of the moon, and you have Mars there, and you keep saying like it's about what you do and putting yourself out there. Leadership, you can only read so much about it until you should just do it. Like I feel like your path was very much like an activated Sagittarius moon, like engaging with that Mars in a way of like traveling, but also like making a solid foundation, like home for your like education, which I thought was just, it
That
stood out
is
to me.
That's interesting you say that too, because in Thailand, when I was teaching at the school, we got placed randomly in a random town in the middle of nowhere. I was with a friend, but we both got placed there. And I looked at my astrocartography map, and I was right on my Mars ascending line or Mars descending line.
Yeah.
The town was right on top of it, which is wild.
Yeah.
I
It
was
really
having,
was.
I think we talked about this before, but I was having an experience there where I was like activating this warrior like uh, being within me, and I was activating my strength in a way where I
And
was
your
so
body.
afraid. I was so afraid to stand in front of a classroom and teach
Right.
kids that had no idea what I was saying, and they were so sweet, and the experience was beautiful in a lot of ways, and just seeing how the astrocartography laid on top of that was
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
And the emphasis on body, and like you said,
Hmm.
yeah, like putting yourself in front of something to do it, and to like, yes, warrior energy your way through the fear, the initial fear, because now you have that experience. So that was really
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm.
Um, okay. Second question. You have a sort of fusion of interests that come together as one with what you do, but do you feel that there is one running theme in your work? If so, what is it?
Mm. A running theme through my work is definitely connecting back to the divine,
Hmm.
connecting to the self
Yeah.
discovery, self knowledge. That's
And
really
like,
what it is.
yeah. And I can see that in, it's more, yeah. And I feel like there's a big, the best way I can explain it is through, of course, astrology. But like when you think about Sagittarius and the Gemini axis, it's like the Sagittarius part of that axis is like, you want to, you're gaining the wisdom. You've already done the intricate work. That's kind of more day to day, but like the wisdom piece, I feel like is huge. It's almost like you just have always had this desire for like this greater understanding of the world, and it comes through in ways of even like treating things that are more unseen in day to day, and like just diving deeper. Not to mention you're
Mhm.
also a Scorpio, so it's like the deep
Mhm.
wisdom of the world is like in your
I think,
work, I feel like.
yeah, I think it comes through that way for sure. And the way that I like to present my work is from like a science-based perspective, because I also
Mm-hmm.
study biofeedback and heart rate variability, and I bring that into my work. And we use
Mm-hmm.
testing, and we really ground it into the science behind the nervous system and how your autonomic nervous system is functioning, whether or not you're functioning well or not. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, the way that I like to weave all of that in is it feels like an art. It feels like an art. It doesn't feel like um, a science so much. It's more
Mm-hmm.
of like, how can I bring in all of that knowledge and create a practice of my own? Because it's been hard, like going off on my own and creating my own practice where I am a
Yeah.
somatic therapist, and not a lot of people know what that means. People hear the
Mm-hmm.
word somatic and they understand that it has to do with the body, but there's a lot going on deeper that's there. So it's
Yeah.
really a lot of the themes in my work revolve around being with what is in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
so you can create a capacity within your nervous system to feel feelings that we might be like really uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And this is so big for a lot of
And
people,
it's so
right?
important. It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're feeling your emotions on a day to day, and you can create some sort of boundary around feeling it and being in it and in the softness of your feelings and sensations, and not feeling shame around it,
Mm-hmm.
there's something beautiful that happens within the nervous system where it processes, and you can allow yourself to be in the feelings and then move on and through them. Like the only way out is through.
Mm-hmm.
So with the body, your experiences filter in through your body, and then you make assumptions and iterations and stories and narratives in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't allow ourselves to feel fully, right? If we just let ourselves feel to the full capacity we have that day,
Mm-hmm.
we relieve the body of any contraction and stress. Um, pre like pre-stress, we kind of like act before the stress
Mm-hmm.
gets compounded in the system, um,
Yeah.
because we're not ignoring something, we're not like sliding something under the rug and then letting it sit there and then eventually come up and out. In It can manifest as illness, it can manifest as skin problems, it can manifest as stomach issues, disease, autoimmune, right?
Yeah.
Because when you really think about it, the root of illness, this is what I talk a lot about in one of my courses called Somatic Regulation, is that at the very root of illness is a stress response
Mm-hmm.
of the body, right? So
Yeah.
it's befriending the nervous system and its responses that are automatic, and some aren't, some are voluntary,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing if there's a way that you can respond in a way that's chosen, because
Yeah.
we can choose how to respond to the world. And
Yeah.
that's really like the theme of everything I do,
Mm-hmm.
including this podcast, and the yoga classes that I teach, and the
Yeah.
newsletter that I send out. Is It's all coming back to that to
Yeah.
that theme.
That's really, really beautiful. And I'm interested in how this will come to be more predominant in society in general, like as the future unfolds. I think that this work is so important, and it's going to just only become more relevant, especially with kind of the, I don't want to say minimal therapies out there for just everyday people, but also just therapies out there that are available for anyone, and just offering an alternative, but also could become even the main therapy for certain people, especially with certain conditions. I think it could
Mm-hmm.
be like a saving grace for certain people. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah, for certain people, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Third question. To give people some inspiration and faith in taking on their passion as their career, what would you say has been the biggest lesson for you on this journey?
Mm, yeah, this is huge. Taking on your personal passion as a career is a big undertaking, and it's not for the like light faint-hearted, I would say. It's a big commitment, and you have to be willing to do the things that don't feel exciting.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be willing to do, for me, for example, I've got more of like a creative way and right brain dominant versus left brain dominant. So doing the money and the books and the website building and the writing the copy, essentially I'm doing all of that at this point because I'm a one woman show. Um, so doing all of those like logistical tasks has been really challenging over
Mm-hmm.
time. And I've come to a place where, you know, I think people have an illusion that doing what you love is never going to be hard and it's always going to be so amazing. And when it starts to not feel amazing, there's a big surge of disappointment. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt that. There's a big surge of like, oh, I'm choosing the wrong path. Maybe I should go in this direction. So there's this energy of like ADHD, like shiny object syndrome, when you're in that stage of deciding if this is what you want to do for your life, for your job, for you to make a living, where you're committed, but you're also open to other suggestions. And I think that can be not great for your
Mm-hmm.
path and for your focus. Depends on the type of person you are and the brain you have. But for me, that was huge is committing to this being the thing that you're doing for a living.
Yeah.
And being open to suggestions has brought me to many amazing places and has allowed me to expand my mind in such a way that I have a lot of tools, a lot of tools to bring into each session with people. Right? I could pull
Yeah.
out any tool in any moment, and I have a lot of tool boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at this stage where it's like, okay, I need to simplify. I need to really define what my tools are and master those tools that I already have instead of grabbing for new ones all the time. That's a
Mm-hmm.
tendency that I have, is to do another training, doing the next best course on
Mm-hmm.
sound healing, for example, when I I have the skills and I am resisting diving deep into my own skill set and developing what I already have as a gift. And I'm resisting putting that out into the world as my gift. So I think I kind of I think the question is being answered. You can let me know if it's not.
Yes.
But
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's really, really important for people who want to, to maybe teach yoga for a living or
Mm-hmm.
create a wellness style business, for example, create online courses, um, teach for a living, like teach what you want to teach, like create your own platform. And there's been a lot of resistance of being seen for me, like
Mm-hmm.
being seen as um, that sort of professional, somebody who does this specific thing. It felt like, oh, I don't want to be put into that box because I don't want to be defined as just that. There's
Mm-hmm.
something there. that I think we
Right.
can, you can work through and say, listen, if I keep up with this mind state and this mindset of I'm just going to keep all my options open because I don't want to be put into a box, I think that can be your detriment because
Mm-hmm.
you're then not mastering your skill set. And I think it takes a sort of grit and a ruthlessness to be really honest with what your gift is and
Yeah.
mastering it and diving into it and then offering it out into the world with confidence. I
Yeah.
think a lot of us get stuck in the shiny object, social media, scrolling, comparing syndrome,
Mm.
where it's like, oh, I like that though. I like that over there a little bit better than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of that shit. I have been sick of it. So that's my advice for people who want to make their passion a living. And the word passion, I don't really love the word passion because your passion becomes the thing becomes your passion. It's not that you
Mm-hmm.
like are searching for a passion and then you grab onto it and you're like, this is my passion. I'm going to follow it. It's more like you choose something that feels right to you and it becomes your passion. Your passion becomes the path.
Yeah. Yes, and that's so important because if you just follow the passion and like the rooted word of passion, meaning it's always something you love, you're constantly going to fall into that thing that you're talking about constantly finding the next best thing that you love because the thing that you were then prior following just got boring and it got
Mhm.
tedious because what you said also about starting a business. It's a business at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And like following your career, following a passion with a career, you have to take both. You have to take both sides of the coin. And what
Yeah.
you hit on is something I struggle with so much. Maybe it's in our blood or something.
Mm.
But yeah,
Mhm.
it's like that the constant thing of the next best thing or how to be better is eventually, if you have that kind of mind, like Kate and I, it's going to become detrimental. So focusing on one thing within your offering and mastering it. That is the best
Yeah.
advice. It's the advice I needed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not like an easy thing to just go do, but
Yeah.
every day practice turning back toward your attention back towards your skill set.
And the
And then your
root.
passion, what your passion will eventually become creating that path for yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. Okay. Fourth question? Yeah. Kate, what has been some of the most beautiful aspects of your career and lifestyle that you never saw coming before you attempted this work?
Mm, that's a good question because I feel like I'm really reflecting on that now. Um, I think that it's allowed me. It's just seeing where I'm at now and what I've built so far. Right,
Mm-hmm.
um, is really letting me see how important my decisions were prior to this when I was younger. And it gives me a sense of like, oh, I trust myself. I trust myself to
Mm-hmm.
make the right decision. Because at the time when I, decided to major in outdoor ed, I made a decision. It felt right. And then there was some regret after, right? I was like, oh man, I wish I didn't major in that because it didn't make me enough money. Like what am I going to do? Like live in the woods for weeks on end?
Right.
Sounds fun when I was 18, sounds fun when I was 20, 25 even. But at this point, I'm like, no, that's not feasible. That's not.
Mm.
So there was a regret. And I was like, man, I didn't think that through. Right. And I'm so grateful that I did that, that I chose that because it brought me here. It wouldn't have brought me to Thailand, I don't think. It wouldn't have brought me to the studying the experiential ed and how experiences relate to education. And it just created this background of study and of just experiences for me that have led me to this amazing work of somatics and the nervous system. And I think my lifestyle now has really lend itself to letting myself follow my intuition.
Mm.
Like I've created space in my life where I can follow these deep soul, like deep sensations of desire, like when it comes to career and money, and it's allowed me to really open up to possibility
Yeah.
in my life in a really big way. Um, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
that was my intention, was to create freedom for
Mm-hmm.
myself,
And
to
yeah,
create
I find it
freedom.
interesting
Hmm.
because this is the work you do for others. You create that space in like the body and the mind, and now you do it so well, and you know this stuff like in and out, and I feel like it's just obviously a practice of your own, and therefore it's allowing you to just have that space that you've always wanted, and just that lifestyle that you've always been, in terms of like me and you. I feel like you're the counterpart that's like much more, I don't know the right word, but like I feel like I'm so like boxy and like organized, and like I the intuitive piece of me is like just very systematic. And for you, I feel like it's very like you're in flow with the feeling of your body, and like
Mm.
even just it's like I could tell, and well, not I could tell, but when I was younger, it's like if someone told me you were gonna be like a therapist, I would have been like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Do you know what I mean? Because you're just very in tune with
Mm.
that thing.
That's interesting. Like Liz is
Yeah.
like the organizational queen. And then there's me who's like flow state, like she like holds the space for me to be in flow when we're in a conversation together, which
Yeah.
is really beautiful. So, but that's interesting because in session, I feel like I really attune to the other person, and I can really
Mm.
really feel um, where they're at in their body, and I'm learning to create like energetic boundaries around it. But I didn't even
Hmm.
realize that that was my gift. So that's another thing. If you're listening to this and you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck even is my gift? What is that? Like and it's really hard to objectively see yourself and say, oh, I'm really good at this thing. So
Hmm.
so get feedback. Like listen to what others say about you, and take it in and write it down, and like have a document full of like those compliments or feedback or criteria
Yeah.
about yourself from other people, and you'll begin to see yourself in that light. And um, that was a little helpful for me because I had, whenever you listen to a podcast and like people say, how'd you get here? And they're like, well, I've always been interested in this. And then
Mm.
there's a sense where you're like, well, there's nothing that I've always been interested in. Like, what about
Right. Like
me? Like
primarily.
what is my thing? Like I didn't grow up a musician since I was like 3 years old. Like,
Right.
so but everyone has a, a gift, for lack of a better
Hmm.
term. Everyone has
Yeah.
something that they naturally and so naturally are good at. And whether it be you can really read a room, you're really good at numbers and math, and it just comes naturally, like it's second nature to you.
Or
Whatever that
even,
thing is,
yeah.
you can lean into that.
Mm. And I think it's really important to say that you might not know this thing about you for a while, but
Hmm.
the way to find it is to engage in the things that feel really aligned with your
Hmm.
heart and
Hmm.
your being. Like Kate and I have always felt a draw towards astrology in our own selves. It wasn't, I mean, Kate's obviously my older sister, and she's influenced all of my interests in ways, but like we both had a very strong affinity towards that, and we wanted to engage in it no matter what. It's not even about, when it comes to these things that you feel drawn to, it shouldn't be like, oh,
Mm.
well, this logically makes sense because it will make me money. It's more about
Yeah.
just following everything that feels good to you despite money, and
Yes.
then letting that interest grow into other aspects that could then drive you to figure out, okay, hey, this is related and that this seems really cool. And yeah, I think eventually everyone just kind of
Mhm.
makes it that way.
I think also in terms of the money piece, giving yourself time, like have a job that you can work and pay the bills, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
you're really serious about this path, um, keep following what's really interesting to you. Think about something you could talk about for hours and hours and hours. What is something you
Mm-hmm.
could talk about for hours and hours? For me, it's like the universe. It's like the mystery of life. I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that. And
Mm-hmm.
then keep following, like take a course, be patient with it. Your gift will show itself in its own time. It will show itself in
Yeah.
its own time. And then once you're getting clearer and clearer about your gift, it takes a while. It took me a long time to get really clear about what it is that my business even offered. Like what do I offer? Right?
Yeah.
And after taking this therapy course and certification, I was like, okay, this is a way I can monetize. So then you kick in that logical brain and you ask yourself, do I want to commit to offering my gift? And that question, you're going to have to consider, okay, once the business part of it comes in with the money, the taxes, managing a business, all of the things it takes to manage a business, there's a lot of logistical pieces. And it's whether or not I want to make that commitment,
Mm-hmm.
right? So once it doesn't have to happen in that order. If you're already
Mm-hmm.
really good at business, you know, lean into your gift and let them weave together. But for me, for my path, it was more like figuring out what my gift is, getting clear on what it is that I offer people. And then
Mm-hmm.
the moment where you become disengaged and you become uninterested because the business part is
Mm-hmm.
showing itself and it's time to make a decision whether or not you want to make this into a business and give it a
Yeah.
name and kind of put it in a box in a certain way, package it
Yeah.
up and sell it and be the person behind that. So there's a sense of commitment there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
letting
that's
it
how,
have its own personality.
yeah. And that's just the reality of this, like this 3D world that we're living in. And in the US and all over the world, in countries that you can have a business, like you can create something that is so unique to you. It's going to be uh, greater than you ever imagine. It's going to grow into something that's greater than you could ever imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. Okay. And the final, most exciting question of all, in my opinion. Where do you intend to take your work in the future? Are there any exciting projects you have in the works? Share anything about your vision and what people can expect to see and hear from you in years to come.
So something that comes to mind is um, I'm currently writing songs, and I have a sound immersion event with a dear friend who's in my band, and we will be singing and leading a cacao ceremony at a local studio in Dover, New Hampshire, for those who are local. This is on December 2nd, 2023, 5 p.m. to 7. And this project is really exciting because it's weaving in a lot of the somatic work that I do with my clients in a group setting. And for those of you who have experienced a somatic dreaming with me, we're going to be doing some of that work, which is basically
Mm.
manifestation down, all the way down at a cellular level through
It's
yoga
my
nidra
favorite thing.
practice. Yeah, through yoga nidra practice. And we'll be weaving in songs and mantras on top of that. So, and cacao. So cacao is something that I'm drinking right now. It's like the medicine I work the most with. Pure cacao from Guatemala is what I usually drink and what we'll be serving there. And this is the first time I've done anything like this, where I'm really sharing my voice in a new way. And we encourage other people to sing. We encourage other people to open their voices. The cacao assists in opening the heart, same with the voice. So it's going to be a really powerful, powerful medicine, and a really powerful rest. So we're singing some really beautiful, beautiful mantras that have been living in me for a while. And we're covering some songs, but we're creating new ones as well. So the sound healing and somatic therapy is really the crossroads of where my work is headed. So I'm still in the process of creating an Instagram that's for my business, which is just my name, and seeing clients, continuing to see clients, and weave in biofeedback and neurofeedback into the sessions is kind of where I see myself going, and having my own space eventually and creating an online platform. I'm dropping another course through a friend who is doing a psychedelic integration kind of therapy. I guess I would call it a program where I can talk more about that at a later date. But those are like some exciting projects I have. And our band is recording an album, and we're dropping an album at some point in 2024. So it's a kirtan album.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Well, yeah, this was really fun for me. I really tried to aim these questions to get the most out of everything you do, Kate, because it's a lot and it's beautiful work, and it's work that I think is going to be, like I said, more and more popular. And also the musical aspect that you are bringing into this is really, I think, like speaking to a soul thing for you. And I just know you obviously personally, so I can just tell that this is like all of it is coming together as one, and it's the most beautiful. So I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, creating these questions and hearing Kate's responses. And I think next time, so in 2 weeks, we're going to do this but reversed. So you'll get to know me.
I'll be interviewing Liz about what she does with her seasonality, wellness, and music production and content creation business. So there's a lot going on there that is coming into one for her as well. So we love these conversations, and reach out if you want to book a session with me. You can email me at hello@katemanuell.com. That's hello@katemanuell with 2 L's.com.
And everything will be in the description if you don't know the spelling, and all of Kate's links will be under her little bullet.
Yeah. So thank you for this session. It was great.
Yeah, of course. And we will see you all next week or 2 weeks from now.
Bye.
Bye.